Hi, this is Cathy for Trans by Deaf, and I'm coming to you here from the old ghost town of San Francisco, mining city, in western Utah. It is a very interesting place, and I love the sign as you start out here. 87 miles to the next service. So you're out in the middle of nowhere, and I really enjoy being here. The topic that we have for this week is an interesting one. The topic is, when do we know that transition is complete? Well, I'm going to start out with some observations concerning the topic first. The first observation that I have is that if you follow YouTube for a period of time like I have over the past 8 years or so, you watch and people come on and they will look at you and they will say, I'm going to start transition. And they will then come out and say, well, I want to document my transition from male to female or female to male here on YouTube and put it out for everyone to see. Or they will show you a sequence of photographs of what they look like now and what they look like when they're finished. If you follow these people, like I have followed many of them over the years, you find a very interesting trend. The first thing that they will do is they will come and make a video before they start, showing them as either a male or as a female, and then they will show you the day that they started hormones, which is always a big day. And usually during that period of time they will talk about the idea of the fact that they have to go and see a psychiatrist or a counselor for 3 or 4 months, then go and get the hormones from a doctor, and there will always be the discussion, is that wise or is that not? You then go with them forward to a point about a year down the road with the individual making videos about every year of that, every month of that transition, and showing how they've changed over that year and a half. At a year and a half, you find that a lot of people then, according to the guidelines that are out there, will then be eligible for transition surgery, and they will have their transition surgery. In the case of male to female, they will go and they have a gender confirmation surgery, and they will talk about it, about the preparation and the things that are going into it. They will come back from that surgery and continue to talk about the recovery from that surgery for, about 6 months to a year after. And after they've reached that point, we are now 2 to 3 years into their transition, and they are really very much of a woman. They have completed the desired transition from male to female surgeries, or they've had the males, females to males will have had their breasts removed, and they are pretty well complete. So I would have to look at you and following the people on YouTube and say, the answer to the question is, as I've followed it over the years on YouTube, is that it is a process that takes about 2 to 2.5 years to complete and go through, if you go through at a very quick time. You've seen that with a lot of the very popular people out there on YouTube, Lady Vixen, Steffi. You followed through their whole transition, and there have been lots of others that I've followed through this transition, and it's about a 2 to 2.5 year period. And once you get to that 2.5 year period, you're really a woman totally, and so you have reached the point where you integrate yourself into society, and there's no longer a need to make transition videos. And so I would say, for the most part, when you reach that 2.5 to 3 year mark, you have reached the point when you have achieved your goal of becoming a woman or becoming a man, becoming the gender that you desire, and so there is no need to make videos. With that being said, I would like to go on and explore some of the other things. There are people like me out here that have been following YouTube since the mid-2000s, looking at the transitions that occur and going through the transition myself and continuing to go forward. During 2008, I started the process. By 2010, I was on hormones. I had made a conscious decision that I did not want to have the gender reassignment surgery, that I was happy with the effects of the hormones, the production of my breasts, the things that were associated with it. And so in a real respect, my transition was complete. But I think there are a number of people out there like myself, and I would say some of the other COAB people here on Trans by Deaf, that for a long period of time they were desiring it. They went through the transition period, and now they're in the post-transition period where they still enjoy talking to a lot of people about it, and we as individuals don't hesitate to talk about our experience for those that are coming along. I think there's another post experience that happens in a lot of cases and is maybe tied to a question that we talked about on Trans by Deaf a few weeks ago of transition and restarting transition a number of times, and the collaborators here indicated just about everybody that they had started and stopped. I think that with time there are a number of people who get to the point where they've even had their confirmation surgery, and yet they will regress and go back and become a man. There's one particular young lady that I follow who she transitioned on the job, and after going through everything, she lost her job. She had no money. She was just about destitute, and she was in a male-dominated profession, and she couldn't find a job as a female in that profession, so she transitioned back and went back to being a man. And she was very unhappy about that decision, but she said, I have to eat, and so I have to do it. And I thought, if I were placed in that decision, what would I do? And I would have done exactly the same thing that she did. I would go back to being a man and find a job in the discipline which I'm in, which is very male-dominated and very much favoritism given to hiring male people. Also, the other consideration that I think plays a role here, for me anyway, is if my wife said I had to go back to be a man, or she would leave me, that would put on a lot of pressure for me to transition back to being a man 100% of the time. And there may be other reasons out there as to why I would transition back to being a man. The two big ones that I can see are really my job and my family, and the pressures which they would put on me. I would say that maybe a third in that list would be religion, because it is very important to me. My religion is very, very important to me. So those are my comments for this week. I would like to emphasize that I think it's about a 2-year period, and when you're totally integrated and feel comfortable with yourself, you will quit visiting the trans sites. I think there are those of us who have been around for a long time who will continue to visit those sites and provide information. And I think there are certain cases when you will transition back if you need money or you have the right pressures placed on you, that you would go back. So I hope to see you again next week, and I really enjoy being out here in the San Francisco mining town and in the San Francisco mountains in western Utah, and being a long way from nowhere. You have a good week like I'm having, and we will see you again next week. Bye.